Alright, so I'm MFidel, and today I'm going to be talking about voices of the unheard. What is an endangered language? An endangered language is one that is close to extinction. There are approximately 7,000 languages today in this world, and around 50% of those languages are estimated to go extinct by the next century. Now, around only 10 languages of the world today, which is around 0.00143% of all languages in total, dominate half of the world's languages. So this is a map of all at-risk languages, red meaning critically endangered, orange meaning endangered languages, seriously endangered languages, and yellow meaning endangered. So what is the reason that these languages are going extinct? Well, firstly, human nature makes us inclined to feel as though one belongs. Secondly, more dominant languages influence territories in which that have speakers of endangered languages, ultimately causing the endangered languages to slowly fade away. And lastly, those who speak an endangered language as their first language often believe that teaching their kids and passing on their first language ultimately would lead to less success rather than if they were to speak a dominant language. So why does this matter? Well, in order to understand this, we first must identify the risks. The first risk that's at stake when a language is loss loss of diversity. Odell quoted that would Cervantes have written the same stories had he written in another language other than Spanish? Would the music of Beyonce be the same in another language other than English? Now, when humanity loses a language, we also lose the potential for greater diversity in art, music, literature, and in oral traditions. Secondly, another risk that is at stake is environmental information. So when a language is lost, it leads us to environmental disadvantages. Cherokee, Inuit, and Siri are all languages that are proven to have important information in which could be lost. Firstly, these are the Southern Appalachian Mountains. According to Rachel Newer, an award-winning freelance journalist, Cherokee contains an accumulated body of information of geography, zoology, and more. Oh, no. Let me go back again, sorry. The thousands of years of inhabitation of the Cherokee people have allowed the language to adopt to this mountain range specifically. Cherokee has words for every single berry, stem, frond, and toadstool in this region. Inuit is a language spoken in Greenland, which is another endangered language that holds valuable environmental information, solely in the language itself. The word Izar-Zarnek translates to something as complicated as a wind that in the forge that comes from the sea and makes it difficult to get home. Until exiting the forge, then it means nice weather. Essentially arguing the inimitable details and information each endangered language holds. This is the Punta Chueca Desert. This desert is a Siri town. Siri has terms for more than 300 desert plants, as well as names for each animal and names that reveal behaviors that scientists once considered far-fetched. Because of the unique understanding of nature in certain regions, the fading of a threatened language deprives us of knowledge as valuable as a future medicinal drug, according to Russ Reimer. And lastly, what's at stake when a language is lost is the vanishing perceptions of the world. Perception defines as a way of regarding, understanding, or interpreting something, or in other words, a mental impression. Now let me ask you something. What do you guys see in this picture? Anyone?
Two faces.
Two faces. Okay, well, a face. Okay, well, it's all about perception. You see, each human approaches situations differently, some people similarly to others. See, some people might see two faces and other people might see a white face. The Tuvan people are another example of varying perception. Normal for an individual to say of the Tuvan language is, I'm looking forward to the day that I'm looking forward to the day before yesterday. Let me repeat myself. I'm looking forward to the day before yesterday. Now, if you really think about it, the logic makes sense. Russ Reimer questions in his Nat Geographic article, if the future were ahead of you, wouldn't it be in plain view? See, tomorrow in the English language defines as something that is in front of you, something that's coming ahead. Yet in the Tuvan language, tomorrow means something behind an individual, because you can't see what is in store for you in the future. This idea of perception is so important to understand because varying perceptions are inevitable, and the loss of endangered languages would threaten them. Unfortunately, simple is not a word that we can use to describe the human mind. There is a reason that humanity has not evolved into one universal language, simply because we are too complex. But in order to help these endangered languages, first, before trying to solve the issue, it is necessary to acknowledge the language is vanishing each day. Secondly, we need to educate others as to what is at stake when a language is lost. And lastly, there are a handful of programs that revitalize indigenous cultures, ones with endangered languages, that can be aided. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a website page?
Yeah. There too.
So how valid and reliable are the sources you use? And how do you know?
Well, I believe that all of my sources were valid and reliable, at least the ones I used in this presentation, because a large majority of my sources were from Tier 1 and Tier 2 sources, meaning that each one had been published by an educational site, or one that had been edited or peer-reviewed by one site that isn't solely for money, as well as, well, yeah, I just make sure to filter out the ones that I knew weren't as reliable as the other ones.
And secondly, what additional questions emerged from your research? Why are these questions important?
Well, when I first started researching this, I couldn't really find as much information as I wanted to. It was really difficult to find evidence specifically to the regions of topics that I covered. So what emerged throughout my research was why this issue hasn't been acknowledged more, because there's so many languages dying each day, and the fact that 50% of the languages are estimated to vanish in the next century is like still mind-boggling for me, even though I've done so much research on it. So that is one of the questions that emerged from my research.
Good. Thank you.